Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the opportunity. We are from Group 7. We will presentation about narrative research. First of all, I would like to introduce our team. My name is Rizkiani Aulia as the first speaker. The second speaker is NOVITA SARI will explain about characteristic of narrative research, and the last or the third speaker, ASRUL bin RUSTAM, will explain about the procedure of narrative research. Okay, the first I will explain about definition of narrative research. What is narrative research? Narrative research is a research that tells story about individual or groups. Narrative research is usually used when the researcher wants to make a report from individual story. Research focused on individual story as opposite to general theory or surrounding norms. Data from narrative research can come from various sources, namely primary and secondary source. Primary source are from direct memory and the secondary source from documents. The data were collected by several methods such as interview, observation, or documentation. Narrative research is a qualitative research. According to Creswell 2012, state that narrative research is a typical form of qualitative research, usually focusing on the study of one person or one individual and how individuals give meaning to their experience. Throughout the story told, data collection can be used to streamline story collection, report individual experience, and discussing the meaning of those experiences. The next is types of narrative research. Narrative research is a general or comprehensive study of various qualitative research practices. So, to carry out narrative research, it is necessary to understand the important characteristics of types of research that fall into the category of narrative research. This is the types of narrative research: autobiography, biography, curriculum vitae or life history. The next is personal documents and personal narrative, narrative interview, and personal story or personal account, and etc. Some of types of narrative research that we'll describe in this video. The first is autobiography. Is a type of narrative research in which individual who is the subject of the research writes the story. The next is biography. Is a form of narrative research in which the researcher writes and records the life experience to other people. The next is life history. Is a narrative story of a person's lifetime experience. However, in education, a research narrative usually doesn't involve a story about the whole life but focused on episode or even in some of the individual lives. The last is personal story or personal account. Is a research narrative about personal experience that are found in multi-episode or episode, personal situation or folklore communal. And I think that's all about my explanation. The next material will explained by my friend NOVITA SARI. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is NOVITA SARI. I am from Group 7 and I will explain about characteristic of narrative research. And the research narrative has the characteristic of a special or characteristic of the study of narrative that has many types. And the first is individual characteristic, individual and experience. And narrative research focus on the experience of one more individual. And the second is chronology of experience, understanding the individual past as well the present, and the individual understanding the individual in narrative research. And the third is collection of story. Research path a version on collection, story told by individual to them, or collection from various full texts. And the fourth is restoring. And there are several types to research. And the first is research conducted and interviewed and recorded. And the second is the research record the raw data by identifying. And the last is the research retailed by organization the code of into a series or sequence. And the fifth is encoding time. Narrative research can code story or data into time categories. And the sixth is in context or setting. The research described on detail in setting on contact with individuals and individual experience is the center of the phenomenon. And the last, collaboration. Research and participant collaborate throughout the research process. I think that's all. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, now I will explain about the narrative research procedure. So, based on the approach proposed by Clandinin and Connolly, in well as a general procedural guide, it can be seen that the narrative study method does not follow a lockstep or circle-like approach, indicating that all steps are hooked and not necessarily linear. So here it is a part of a narrative research procedure. The first is identify an event that answer the research problem to be explored. Research begins by focusing on research problem to investigate and identify a central event to be explored in the qualitative process. And the second is select one or more individuals who can provide an understanding for the event questions. The third is gathering information in the form of stories from individuals. The best way to get stories is to ask the individual to share their experience through private conversation or interview. And you can also collect text field by asking individual to record their story in diary or diary. And then observing individual and taking field notes. Collect letters sent by individuals, compiling stories about individuals from family members, collecting documents such as memos or official correspondence about individuals, get photos, memories, books, and other personal family or social artifacts. And the last is recording individual life experience. So the first is retelling individual stories. So here the researcher plays an active role and restructures the story of the story into a meaningful framework. This process includes examining the raw data, identifying the elements of the story in it, sequencing or organizing the elements of the story, and presenting a story replay that describes the experience of the participant. The next is number 5. Collaborate with participants who tells the story. So these steps interact with all other steps in process. Researchers collaborate actively with participants during the research process. This collaboration can take several forms. For example, negotiation entry to research sites and participants, and then working closely with participants to obtain field text to capture individual experience, writing and telling individual stories in the researcher's method. The number 6 is write a story about the personal and social experience of the participants. The main step in writing research is for the writer to write and present a story about the individual experience. While there is no single way to write a narrative report, it helps to include narrative feature. The story that is retold certainly occupies an important or central place in a narrative report. In addition, the writer must include an analysis for certain themes that arise during the story process. And the last one, the number 7, is validate report accuracy. If there is a collaboration with participants, this validation can occur throughout the project. Several validation practices such as member checking, triangulating between the data source, and seeking disconfirming evidence are useful for determining the accuracy and credibility of narratives story. Okay, I guess that's all from our group explanation. I hope you can understand each part that has been explained. Thank you.